Brussels is under pressure. European vehicles line up quietly at the Russian border, seeking cheaper fuel, while Ursula von der Leyen finds herself cornered. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Global Perspective. Brussels is no longer the center of control, it is becoming the epicenter of an energy shock spreading across the continent. As the Strait of Hormuz trembles, oil prices surge instantly, triggering a chain reaction that destabilizes Europe's entire system. But the real shock is not on the price charts. It is happening at the borders. Lines of EU-registered cars stretch endlessly, crossing into Russia for cheaper fuel. A silent image, powerful enough to shatter previous political declarations. In Brussels, Ursula von der Leyen faces one of the toughest moments of her leadership. Strategic decisions now collide with harsh realities. Rising costs, tightening inflation, and a weakening market confidence. From transport to manufacturing, to everyday life, every link in the chain is stretched to its limit. When citizens begin voting with their wheels, energy policy is no longer theory. It becomes a test of survival. And in this game, Europe is slowly losing control. Europe now faces an energy chokehold. And a single bottleneck is tightening its grip. The Strait of Hormuz has become a life or death switch for the global energy market. Even the slightest disruption sends oil prices soaring, tankers slowing, and supply chains shaking. The shock arrives faster than any contingency plan. European economies, heavily dependent on imports, are pushed into a defensive position. Fuel costs rise, dragging transportation, food production, and inflation along with them. Pressure builds, not just on governments, but on every household. Emergency support packages begin to look fragile. Against the speed of market escalation, at the center of power, Ursula von der Leyen faces her greatest challenge since the 2022 crisis. Strategic reserves are released, but they only buy time. They do not solve the core problem. Meanwhile, alternative supply routes reveal their weaknesses. LNG is expensive, infrastructure is unprepared, and each passing day adds another layer of cost. Financial markets respond coldly. Bond yields rise. Growth risks increase. The balance of control becomes clear. Those who control supply hold power. Those who depend on it must follow. And Europe is on the latter side. As tensions remain high, a larger scenario begins to emerge. This is no longer a short-term disruption. It is a structural shift, forcing Europe to rethink its entire survival strategy. Across the continent, energy inflation spreads like a domino effect. Fuel prices surge hourly. Gasoline, diesel, natural gas, all rising together. Transport reacts first. Costs explode. Businesses raise prices. Supply chains slow down. Goods become more expensive. Retailers pass the pressure to consumers. And soon, food and essentials follow. Inflation spreads relentlessly. Central banks respond with tighter policies. Interest rates climb. Housing markets cool. Every step forward becomes heavier. Meanwhile, manufacturers are trapped. Input costs rise. Consumer demand weakens. Profit margins shrink. Some industries begin to contract. Layoffs quietly emerge. The signals are no longer isolated. They are forming a clear pattern. Power is shifting. Those who control energy control the market, and Europe is forced to react rather than lead. At the borders, something even more striking unfolds. European citizens, facing record-high fuel prices, begin crossing into Russia. Cars line up for hours to save a few dozen euros. A simple calculation. When living costs rise, every decision becomes financial. Political slogans fade. When monthly bills grow, this phenomenon sends shockwaves back into the system. Domestic fuel stations lose customers. Revenues fall. Local governments face pressure, but solutions are limited, because beneath it all, this is not just economics. It is psychology, a shift in behavior, a shift in trust, and when policy and reality fall out of sync, cracks begin to form. At the same time, the digital world reflects growing instability. Videos spread across Europe, people experimenting with sunflower oil as fuel. A bizarre trend, but one rooted in real fear. Experts warn of engine damage. Yet curiosity spreads faster than caution. Some drivers take the risk, trading long-term damage for short-term savings. When financial pressure rises, safety standards fall. This is no longer just an energy issue. It is a system under strain. And when a system is pushed too far, unexpected reactions begin to appear. Europe now stands at a crossroads. Caught between long-term strategy and short-term survival, energy costs continue to rise. While alternatives lag behind, policy delays collide with market reality. Internal divisions grow. Some prioritize immediate relief, others insist on long-term strategy. Unity, once Europe's strength, now faces fragmentation. And this is only the beginning. Billions of euros evaporate in days. As energy costs spiral, emergency meetings follow one after another. Temporary solutions are deployed, but each one is reactive. The market moves faster than policy. And the gap continues to widen. Meanwhile, beyond Europe, the geopolitical landscape shifts. Russia redirects energy exports toward China and Asia, not as a temporary measure, but as a strategic pivot. The balance of power is changing. Trust between global blocs erodes. Sanctions, countermeasures, and information warfare intensify. The system is no longer stable. It is evolving. And at the heart of it all lies a simple truth. Energy is no longer just a resource. It is power. It is leverage. It is control. The rules of the game have changed. And those who control energy